You are about to witness greatness. When it comes to epic shutdowns, no one does it like Jordan Peterson, mainly because it's not just about him silencing critics or dismantling their weak arguments, it's how he does it. With razor-sharp intellect in a calm, elegant manner, Peterson's ability to take on tough questions and heated debates is unmatched. Simply put, the man doesn't just win arguments, he leaves his opponents rethinking their entire approach, and today we're covering the top 3 instances in which he achieved that. As always, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more videos just like this.
Maybe you just think that women should be equally represented in the decision-making fora of our nation. Maybe that's really just about having proper equality in a body that's meant to be representative.
Well, I do believe that women should have... I don't understand your question, I guess.
I guess you don't. That's pretty obvious, unfortunately.
Well, how about if you phrase it more clearly, instead of just insulting me?
That's Australian Labor Party politician Terry Butler for you. Apparently, she doesn't know that asking someone a question and getting a request for clarification, well, it's a normal part of any conversation. Just think about it. When someone asks about the exact point of your question, it usually means they want to give a thoughtful or accurate answer. That's a good thing, right? They're taking you seriously, but if your follow-up response is cheeky or sarcastic, you're not helping anyone. In fact, it's just plain rude and says more about your character than the person who is asking for clarity. It's the equivalent of mocking someone for asking directions. It serves no purpose other than inflating your own ego, pretty much. Seeing this, Jordan decided to put her in her place with pure facts and statistics.
Look at it this way. Let's talk about quotas for a minute. So there's a very wide array of jobs that are fundamentally done by men. So, for example,
Member of Parliament,
99.9% of
sorry, Alex, I'm going to
bricklayers...
stop sledging you now, I promise.
I'm happy to give my minute to Jordan.
99.9% of bricklayers are men. Should we have quotas for women?
Is bricklaying representative democracy?
That has nothing to do with the question. The question is if there's evidence of structural inequality and oppression because women aren't precisely represented at 50% in all professions at all levels, then why don't we have a conversation about having women represented in all professions at all levels?
Well,
why do we talk about the C-suite, for example? Why do we talk about politics and positions of power? Why don't we talk about it across the board?
That is because modern-day feminism has shifted its focus from achieving equality of opportunity to demanding equality of outcome. Especially in positions of power, the obsession with quotas, whether it's in politics, business, or entertainment, suggests that women are inherently disadvantaged by the system, but this narrative doesn't really hold up when examined closely. Let's take politics, for example. Elections are the ultimate level playing field. Every candidate, regardless of gender, has the same opportunity to run campaign and win over voters. The system doesn't favor men. It favors competence, strategy, and the ability to connect the electorate. Yet modern feminists insist that low female representation in politics is a result of systematic bias, not personal choice or voter preference. This line of thinking is the complete opposite of the concept of meritocracy. It also implies that women can't succeed without special treatment, which is not only patronizing, but dismissive of the achievements of women who have risen through their own hard work and talent. Now, next, we have Jordan getting Kathy Newman to admit he's right when it comes to freedom of speech.
Because in order to be able to think, you have to risk being offensive. I mean, look at the conversation we're having right now. You know, like you're certainly willing to risk offending me in the pursuit of truth. Why should you have the right to do that? It's been rather uncomfortable.
Well, I'm very glad I put you on the spot.
Well,
I'm very glad that I have exercised my freedom of speech.
You get my point. It's like you're doing what you should do, which is digging a bit to see what the hell's going on. And that is what you should do. But you're exercising your freedom of speech to certainly risk offending me. And that's fine. I think more power to you as far as I'm concerned.
So you haven't sat there and I'm just trying to work that out. I mean,
Ha, gotcha.
you have got me. I'm trying to work that through in my head. Yeah, it took a while.
It did, yeah.
Took a while.
Every time I'm feeling down or having a bad day, I pull out my phone and watch this video, and my mood instantly gets better. Because it's like a warm hug from logic itself. There's something undeniably satisfying about making an agenda-driven interviewer concede to your main argument. And drop a like if you think that's the ultimate flex. When someone comes at you armed with gotcha questions or an obvious bias, their goal's clear. They're not seeking to understand, they're seeking to corner you. But when you not only hold your ground, but get them to admit you're right, That's a mic drop moment. Next, we have a woke woman who enjoys doomsdayism trying to ask a question.
I want to know, what is your answer to young people for some of the really big problems facing humanity, like the climate catastrophe, like economic crisis, like the precarious job market? Because I just don't, you talk all this much about individual responsibility. Most of us are never going to be able to afford to have all of these assets to have responsibility over. So what is your advice beyond banal comments like clean your room?
Well, it's actually rather difficult to answer a question that ends with your comments are banal politely. I would consider that more of an opinionated personal and political statement than actually a question. So why don't you try reformulating that so that there's an actual question there?
Talk about being rude. Her question could have been simple, straightforward, and over in 10 seconds, but nah, she kept talking, essentially answering it herself and revealing the response she wanted Jordan to give. Instead of letting him speak, she filled the air with her own assumptions, hoping to box him into a corner, but this is Jordan Peterson we're talking about, so he wasn't going to let it slide.
So what is your advice to young people when you talk about you need to be individually responsible, but when there are things that are so far out of our control, like climate catastrophe, like the precarious job economy, like the economic crisis,
out of your control as you think.
What is your answer to people
Do you think that you're worse off than you think that you're worse off than your grandparents?
I think there are different challenges.
Do you think you're worse off than your grandparents?
I think that
Jordan, once again, we're not going to cross-examine our questioners.
You see how her question could have been asked in just 10 seconds? It was simple and clear, so now that we understand what she was inquiring about, let's hear Jordan's response.
Fundamentally, I'm a psychologist, and my experience has been that people can do a tremendous amount of good for themselves and for the people who are immediately around them by looking to their own inadequacies and their own flaws and the things that they're not doing in their lives and starting to build themselves up as more powerful individuals. And if they're capable of doing that, and then they're capable of expanding their career. And if they're capable of expanding their career and their competence, then they're capable of taking their place in the community as effective leaders. And then they're capable of making wise decisions instead of unwise decisions when it comes to making collective political decisions. I'm not suggesting in the least, and have never suggested, that there's no domain for social action. I'm suggesting that people who don't have their own houses in order should be very careful before they go about reorganizing the world.
The woke mindset has a weird way of turning everything into an issue of victimhood. Pushes people to believe they're perpetual victims of society, circumstances, or systematic problems. While some issues certainly do exist, this way of thinking does more harm than good. When you constantly frame yourself as a victim, you strip away your agency, the very power you have to change your circumstances. Reality is simple. Everything starts and ends with the individual. Just ask yourself this simple question. If something is truly out of your control, how do you expect to fix it? You can't. The energy spent feeling wrong or helpless is wasted. The better approach is to take ownership of your life and work toward what you can influence. You may not control the world, but you control how you respond to it. The irony of victimhood culture is that it paralyzes people. It convinces them they're powerless, when in truth, they're not. I'd love to know your thoughts here, so let's get the conversation rolling in the comments down below. By the way, if you want your friends to see these epic takedowns, please share the video with them. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.